So the U.S. military is now preparing for an attack on U.S. soil, and specifically Alaska. Today I want to address why we are sending troops and a naval presence to Alaska. What is happening with Russia? What is happening with Iran? What is happening with Israel? And what is going on with Ukraine? Because that is where everything comes down to it. So I'm going to break all this down in just a moment, explain why there's so many threats currently to the United States, what this means for U.S. Selective Service, and why there's a little bit of a warning sign from Congress. So I'll break all this down in just a moment, but all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates, and now let's begin. So does this mean the United States is headed for World War III? Well, it could. But here's what you need to know. The worry right now is the United States against Russia. The United States against Russia would create a world war. This would be devastating to tens of millions of people, potentially 100 million plus people. But here's what you need to know. This is something that is very unlikely. Going to a physical war and actually having Russian troops against U.S. troops. That's highly unlikely. But it does not mean it will not ever happen. Here's what I can show you. Ukraine wants to fire Western long-range weapons into Russia, but the battlefield gain is not clear-cut. What does this mean? Well, if Ukraine sends Western long-range missiles into Russia, which Russia has already said do not do, and warned the United States, do not allow this to happen, because if it does, Russia will go and respond against NATO. If there's a Russian response against NATO, this means the United States will step in and they will defend every NATO country. Look at this. It says Putin warns U.S. NATO risk war with Russia if long-range strike bans lifted for Ukraine. It says Biden to meet with the UK's Starmer to discuss ongoing strike bans on Ukraine. This was about 10 days ago. Now, they are going to see, there's going to be a meeting between the Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky and I believe President Biden here this week. But what you need to understand about that one is I don't know if we get further and go deeper into this potential crisis, or President Biden pulls us a little bit further out of it. Again, this is the problem. But what the United States is doing right now, this is just a sign of what we could potentially see. Look at this. It says U.S. builds up naval troop presence near Alaska amid Russian activity. It says the actions follow a series of Russian air operations that skirted Alaskan airspace, and as Russian and Chinese warships conducted joint exercises across the Pacific. Now, you may not have heard about this, but yes, there was some planes that were in the area of Alaska. I believe they were both Russian planes. But we saw this. Again, they said it was just a simple exercise. It wasn't an attack or anything like that on the United States. It wasn't a spy plane or anything like that. Well, we'll see what happens. But that is what was somewhat disconcerting to the U.S. military, is what was it doing there and why didn't they know that? I want to read a little bit of this to you. It says the U.S. military is steadily boosting its presence near Alaska, deploying a destroyer and an army unit armed with a long-range missile system as tensions rise due to stepped-up Russian and Chinese military activities near the Alaskan coast. It says, over the past month, the destroyer USS Sterett has been dispatched to the Alaskan coast in response to the Russian Navy ships operating in the area. Army troops have landed on a remote Alaskan island, and fighter squadrons and other aircraft based in Alaska have been placed on heightened alert. The actions follow a series of Russian air operations that skirted Alaskan airspace, and as Russian and Chinese warships conducted joint exercises across the Pacific near Japan. Okay. Now, we've heard about this before. We saw Russian ships down just off the coast of Cuba, right? So less than 90 miles away from Florida. And again, we saw a Russian submarine. There were multiple ships, but again, they said it was nothing. Could it have been something? Possibly. But again, the United States sent our Navy ships out there as quickly as possible. But now they're saying that we need to be ready just in case. We can't wait to respond after the fact. We have to be ready for an attack immediately. Now, here's what I can tell you. It's highly unlikely that Russia and the United States go after each other as far as troops. But a cyber attack is far more likely. Now, from the U.S. perspective, that might be especially from Russia too, that might be a better option, because Russia is losing troops left and right because of what's going on in Ukraine. And as far as the United States, the last time we had a draft in the United States, we had 10 times the amount of military personnel that we do currently today. That means we have 10% of what we did before. We don't have enough. Okay? Look at this article. This article from Vox. It says America isn't ready for another war because it doesn't have the troops. The U.S. military's recruiting crisis explained. Now, here's why so many people are frustrated with this. Number one, we're being told, for men age 18 to 26, lawmakers recently moved to automate selective service registration for all men. 18 to 26 years old, before you were required to sign up for selective service, sign up for the draft. Okay? At age 18, you had to sign up. Okay? They sent you a little form, you filled it out, sent it back. Well, that's different. Now when you turn 18, you are automatically registered for the draft. It's not up to you. You're automatically registered. But, and this was something that a lot of people were speculating about, there's still discussions on this, is what about women? Over the past, handful of years, we've seen a lot more of a push for, making sure that women have the same rights as men. Women are treated the exact same, right? They get paid fairly, right? That, I'm not gonna argue over that one, because I still, men still do get paid, more. Based off reports and facts, but they want to get paid fairly. They want to do all this stuff, and that's great, right? More power to women. But at the same time, now lawmakers are saying, well, if we're giving women all these other rights, then why don't we require them and they are automatically registered for the draft as well? Well, there's issues there. Number one, women are the only ones that can get pregnant. So we have a little bit of an issue with the babies coming into the United States. Right? We're not seeing a lot of people starting families. It's creating an issue because then, again, we're not going to have people in 10, 20, 30 years if we don't have kids now. And so many lawmakers say, no, we got to protect women because how else are we going to grow the country? Okay, makes sense. The other one is lawmakers are saying that, okay, instead of automatically making women register for the draft between the ages of 18 and 26, how about we just require them to register for the draft, just like men used to do years ago. They're required to do it. And then they will be the last of the ones that we call if and when we need them. Okay, maybe that works. But here's the issue. Let's just talk about men for a second. Here's what somebody was telling me. So I was talking to a friend of mine who's a recruiter. Okay? I wrote down some notes. I want to read some of these notes to you. Says why the U.S. has a crisis. Number one, we have a tenth of the military that we once did during the last draft. That's a big issue. Congress is likely going to be forced to mandate women into the draft. That's still part of their discussions. And here's a big problem. The draft eligible citizens are not in good shape. Okay? And many, based off of reports, and my guess is this is more of a survey than an actual report. I'm not sure how they do this, but they say about 1 out of every 3 draft eligible citizens would not even pass the health requirements. Okay, because they are overweight, their vision's an issue, medical issues, right? Something with their heart, their knees, their something, right? So many people have something that would disqualify them from even serving in the U.S. military. That is what my friend was telling me. Now, I think that's interesting because that is one of the things that I don't remember which lawmaker brought this up, but there's a reason why just mandating that men age 18 to 26 are automatically registered for selective service. They're saying it's not enough. That's not enough men because right now the health of men in the United States is deteriorating. So we do need women. Okay, we need women now more than ever when it comes to the U.S. military. The other thing that a lawmaker is saying is women don't have to fight on the front lines. They can do some of the other things because, especially you give anybody a task, and let's say it's some computer related. It could be something simple, right? It doesn't have to be a physical task, even though many women can do the physical task just as well, if not better than men. And so they're saying that maybe we give them something that's not on the front lines, because those are things that women, just the way that they process information could be much better than a male counterpart. So we'll see what happens, but what we do know at this time is the United States is rushing to be prepared for what may come. It may be a cyber attack, it may be a physical attack, but right now they see the highest risk is over in Alaska. That is why they're sending troops and Navy ships up to Alaska just to ensure that they are protected. So, as soon as we get more information on this, I promise I'll bring you all the latest news and updates. But as of today, that is what we know. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.